Hi, I wanted to do another video, and this time I wanted to do it on Seattle downtown toll, as it's not called the downtown toll in Seattle, but that's basically what it is. And I'm going to explain to you my idea or my take on what the downtown toll is. In Seattle, you got a whole ton of people that are congesting the roadways. Back when I lived in Seattle back in the 90s, Seattle had buses that went underground during peak time. They also had electric buses that ran above ground, and the electric buses basically the electric buses were free in downtown for the people that worked there. Of course, you didn't have all these high tech jobs and everything like you got now. Back when I lived in Seattle, it was more civilized. Seattle was more like a regular city. It wasn't like Manhattan. It wasn't like New York or San Francisco yet. It was more like just a regular city, like Kansas City, Missouri, or someplace like that. So yeah, it had electric buses that could fire up and go gas outside of downtown. We had gotten a special grant to help pay for the buses. The zone was free in downtown, so people that worked there could just hop on, go to lunch, and then hop back. And also all the homeless, drunks and bums, and various other people that needed a way to get into downtown when the downtown zone started and needed to go to Pioneer Square where all the shelters were at. They could just hop on, and the bus drivers didn't have to worry about any kind of excuses. So anyway, it says on Tuesday, State Senator Tim Sheldon introduced legislation to block Seattle's plan to impose tolls on downtown streets. Now, I wrote a letter to Tim Sheldon the other day. And oh, actually, no, not the other day. I'm behind. It was actually today I wrote the letter, and I accused him of not liking Seattle, and he's a Democrat to boot. They don't understand. See, they want to use the excuse that so it's the Senate Bill 5104 would prohibit cities, counties, and other local governments from imposing tolls. See, Seattle wants to do this, and the state of Washington wants to cut them off at the pass and make it illegal in any place in Washington because they don't think it's fair to the rich. Of course, they're not going to tell you that. They're not going to say that they think it's unfair for the rich because then it'll make it look like they only care about the rich. But they said here, would prohibit cities and counties and other local governments from imposing tolls and would establish that tolls can only be imposed by the legislature, which means that the state government would only be able to impose a toll. Last year, the city announced its decision to embark on $1 million study of congestion pricing. That's what they want to call it. Seattle calls it congestion pricing. Now, they're hoping that by doing that, it'll get less people to want to drive in downtown and they will want to take public transportation. They've got a light rail system. When I lived there, they had the monorail and they had the buses. And it was just fine. You take the monorail from Westlake Shopping Center all the way to the Space Needle, and you could take the bus anywhere else you needed to go in the city. And if you're over on an island, you could take the ferry boats. It says here, late last year, the city announced that Senator Sheldon says that the tolls would disadvantage people with lower incomes and those who don't live in the city. Now, when they say it would disadvantage people with a lower income. Oh, excuse me. Lower income would be 60,000. Yeah, 60,000 a year. That's not very much money. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's not what I consider to be low income. You got people that live in Seattle that have to live on $10,000 a year. $10,000 a year. That's about $771 a month, give or take. Uh huh. To toll existing roadways would be really. Oh, to toll existing roadways would really put a burden on those of us that don't live in the city, that want to come for the medical procedures, educational opportunities, entertainment, whatever it is. Sheldon said, and pretty soon it will be only those that are very wealthy that can afford to drive into Seattle. Well, that's great because you don't need to be clogging up Seattle in the first place. Oh, well, that's all that was. Okay. Very small news article on Seattle Senate Bill 5104 that the Washington state government's going to try to pass. Senator Tim Sheldon's going to pull it out onto the floor, and they're going to have people vote on it. And because the state of Washington they're in the hip pockets of all of the major developers, all of the big major developers that are coming from out of town, like China. You got major developers in China that were up in Canada. Yes, I know. If you noticed, yes, I got to have that worked on. Um, but up in Canada, you had major developers that ended up moving into the state of Washington because in Seattle, there is no income tax at all, from what I gather, no income tax. And developers could move down here and they could just run over the city. They go into Seattle and they buy up all these properties and they just run amok. But anyway, my video was on the toll, the Seattle toll, or the congestion pricing, which Senator Tim Sheldon said it's not, it's a toll. And that's what it is. It is a toll. But it's a needed toll because you got to pay for the upkeep on the roads somehow. And if you're going to use the roads, you should help pay for them. Yep. There are roads, don't get me wrong. The roads within the United States, no matter who builds them, they're ours. The citizens of the United States, those are our roads. And we put them in the capable hands of people like Senator Tim Sheldon to figure out how to fix them. Now, I don't mind paying out of my pocket to help fix the roads if it's going to fix them. But anyway, this has been All Things Considered because I consider all things. Have a good night, everybody.